Hello. So today on my somewhat marine-based channel, I'm going to be talking about toys, and more specifically, toy outboards, because they are neat. Look at these little guys. Aren't they cool? Look at them. But these are the El Cheapo ones nobody wants. What everybody does want are metal versions, like this guy. Pretty neat, pretty detailed. Now, the only problem I have with these things is they're kind of plagued. And by plagued, I mean cost. They are expensive and I can't afford any. And it sucks. So my only real issue other than that is the flimsy, cheap little stands they come with. I mean, really, this one's actually not that bad. Most of the ones you see are little coat hanger looking things or a little bent piece of acrylic. You'll see that one coming up here in a second. Frame out a little, show you what it looks like. So, I mean, it's not a bad stand, but I don't think it's that great.
Now this is a stand. Looks good. It's nice and strong. It's got some, good shapes and curvature to it. So yeah, I think this would be the stand to do. Hi, baby. Do you like that stand better? Yeah, me too.
So this is the stand base that I kind of came up with. I measured all of the measurements on the other stand and scaled this one to somewhat the same size. Now it is a little different, right around here. It kind of goes in. It doesn't kind of V out like the other one does. But I don't know. I think it's pretty close, and I think it'll look okay. And then we also needed a top. So this is going to be the little stand top. So pretty basic, but I do like this little indent and the overall shape of the top of it. So let's see how it comes out. Now that stand that I'm modeling it after, it's kind of got a taper to it. Usually the transom of boat has a 15-degree taper, and that stand is made, to hold an actual outboard, so it also has that 15-ish degree kind of tilt to it. Problem is these little outboards, they don't always have that little tilt to them. If you look, this is basically 90 degree. Since it's made for a model boat, I don't think they were going to put the time and effort into putting an angle on the back. So the stand isn't going to have that. It's just going to be kind of a right angle. And even our newer plastic versions, they do that too. So that's why we're not going to have that angle. All right, let's get all this junk cleaned up and get started. And here is the finished prototype. I think it looks great, personally, so far. The only problem is if you compare it to one of the other stands, this guy, you can't see on camera, of course, but it is about a 1/4 inch taller. We also have a little bit of room under here. On the normal Everard stand, I think that should have been a long shaft. I don't think they made this version of Outboard in a long shaft. So I don't think I need that extra space, and I kind of want it to be interchangeable with these other types of stands. So I'm going to lower this a 1/4 inch. The next thing, it's a little bit too wide. So this will fit on a piece of 1/4 inch material, but it's a bit tight. So I think I'm going to reduce it a little. Instead of going a 1/4 inch thick right here, I think I'm going to do a 1/5 of an inch thick, or 0.20. I think that'll make it so these little transom clamps work a little better. So, back to the drawing board. Alright, here is Rev B of this. I think it's a better fit. It's only really the only difference is a little bit shorter on this one, but transom clamps, you can tell now they're actually clamping on instead of just kind of there. So I think I'm going to roll with something similar to this. Mind you, this is a 2x4, but it's holding it just fine. It's a little bit too long. Well, it's not really, but it's a little longer than it needed to be. This was modeled or scaled with the actual stand that has a slight tilt to it. This one doesn't. That resulted in the stand being a hair longer than it probably should have been, but I don't think it's a problem. I think I'm going to leave it like that. Still had some problem with the little base here. It's still a little bit... Well, the first problem was the walnut. It's rock hard, so that small of a cut, it chipped off, which is called chip out, I believe. And the same thing with even the 2x4, but less of a damage. So I think what I'm going to do is cut out the base without this, cut this separately and glue it on. I think that's going to be the way to go. Otherwise, that's kind of what it's looking like now. Well, I'm really happy with how my 2x4 stand came out. So now what I'm going to do is spend the next 3 months working on some tooling and learning how to sand cast and make this out of cast aluminum. So what you're about to see is attempt number 1, and then you'll see attempt number 2 using a much smaller flask or mold, and yeah, you'll see the end result in a second.
Now, I find it only fitting to actually use outboard parts to melt down to make little outboard stands. So I got an old propeller here, an old tilt tube, and just random little junk, some broken or messed up parts. Anyway, let's fire this up, melt these down. Alright, the last attempt didn't work too well, so here it is quite some time later actually, and I'm going to try it again, because I really want one of these things. Just gotta let it dry for a little bit. I got a bucket of water to dunk it in so it's not too hot. Obviously. Yeah, not so much.
Hey. So the parts are definitely going to need some cleanup, but I mean that's kind of expected, especially when you don't really know what you're doing as far as sand casting. So what I'm doing now is working on the stand top to the base mounting area. I'm going to try to find center of this and then put a hole in it. That's about center. So the base is going to need some cleanup. I went ahead and filed the inside right here so that our stand top fits in nicely, and it does now. So I'm going to go drill some holes. Well, not too bad so far. Where's my little ratchet? Now I gotta tap a little hole. Got a little screw. Can't find the right size bit for it naturally, so I'm using little Torx, but whatever works. And kind of eyeball it straight. It's probably good right there. And tighten it down. And now I have something to hold on to, so now I'll start cleaning it up. So that was a lot of work, but end result is a little cast aluminum outboard stand. So I was thinking at one point I could have just got a little chunk of aluminum and just used the CNC router to make the entire thing. The problem is I think cast aluminum has a certain unique look to it, and I don't think it would have looked right if it was, made out of, stock aluminum. So I do kind of like the look of cast, but I do think I have some learning and work to do to my mold making. But it's a nice first attempt, and I will rest from doing this for a few months, and then I will try again with version 2. But for the most part, this is working fine. Here it is with a little outboard on it, and I think it looks pretty good. Here's that stand versus my stand. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know. It's pretty neat, I think. This is a big twin, so 35 horsepower outboard. And let's go ahead and bump it up a little bit and see how big of a motor we can get on this thing. We know it'll do a 35, so let's try it with a 55 horse. Oh yeah, no trouble at all. All right, let's do it with 100 horsepower. Oh yeah, no issue there. All right, now we're gonna start getting the big ones. 225 horse. Oh yeah, no issue. All right, well, we know that fits, so let's go with 300 horsepower, a V8. Yeah, it kind of does. That's pretty funny, actually. I mean, it holds on there, but the problem is the little skeg there is really doing all the holding, but that's pretty funny. Alright, as I just demonstrated, not all outboards are created equal. Now we have another one that's a little different. It's a little, I think it's a little rarer than these two are. It's a different scale than those two, and also it does have a little degree of a tilt to it. So if you put it on one of the stands that I just made for him, it sits in there a little weird. I mean, not bad, but not really that good. The cowling is a little tilted downwards, and there's a pretty big gap there. So this type, I think, is going to need its own stand, and by think, I pretty much know. And we have this version I made. It is a little bit shorter. I forget how much. Good ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch. But it also has a little tilt to it. See what I mean? All I did there was cut out the inside a little more and then drill an angled hole and put an angled screw. I think overall this one came out the best out of those other two. But let me show it to you with the engine it was made for on it. And now I think it looks a lot better. So what have I learned from this? Well, sand casting is a royal pain. It is not easy. You watch a bunch of videos on YouTube, you think you got it down, and then you start trying to do it and you realize how difficult it actually is. I think with the videos that I watched the guys sand casting, it wasn't their first attempt like you think on video. I think it was their 8th or 9th attempt before they got a decent part out of it. You will have failure after failure after failure. Now, these aren't too bad of parts, so you can see the common trend here that was going on with my bases. This base came out okay. The problem is that the top didn't. This one is still usable. I'm probably going to finish this one up, drill it, tap it, polish it, that kind of stuff. The tops, for whatever reason, this one came out okay. This one kind of looks burnt and kind of funky. But, I don't know, I can get another usable stand out of my parts here. But the point is, at first, the first pouring attempt in the bigger mold, before I actually poured it, I must have tried packing that sand in there 8 or 9 times. I spent hours and hours and hours trying to get it right. And at the end of the day, all I wound up with were a couple of stand tops, a couple of usable parts of these, and not a single base. Now, I know nothing about draft angle, copes, drags, vents, that kind of stuff, which is going to be what I'm going to implementing in version 2 of these stands, but this will get the ball rolling, if you will. So yeah, it's not as easy as you'd think. Even the second attempt, when I thought I had it down, it still took 4 or 5 tries before I got some usable parts out of it. And the other thing too, I don't think many of these parts came out of their own mold. Like, I think I had a functioning stand out of one pour and then a functioning stand out of the other, and eventually they all came together to make these 3 stands. Melting down outboard parts, however, no problem with that. You get good quality aluminum out of it. Well, that's about it for today. Let me know what you think of this in the comments below, and I will see y'all next time.